So, what does the word mission really mean in a Christian context? According to missionary Jiggu, to get our heads around this huge global idea, we actually have to start with something surprisingly small and personal. It all kicks off with this really powerful thought about pride. And Bogi says, look, this isn't just some minor character flaw. It's a hidden blind spot, one that can totally warp how we see the world without us even realizing it. So get this. For years, Bogi, who was a pastor himself, would sit and listen to other pastors preach. And in his head, he'd be critiquing them, thinking of better examples he would have used. He just thought he was being smart. But later, he had this huge realization. That wasn't intelligence, it was pride. It was this hidden need to feel like he knew better. And that personal story, that revelation about a hidden attitude, well, that's actually our way into a much, much bigger story. The world's original design, the ideal blueprint for how everything was supposed to work. Okay, so according to Bogi's framework, the story begins with one core absolute principle. God is the eternal king. Before there was time, before the universe, before anything, God was the single, sovereign authority over it all. That's the ground floor. So you've got God, the king. He creates the earth as this brand new realm. But here's the twist. He doesn't rule it directly. Instead, he creates humanity in his own image, and then he delegates his authority to them. They were basically appointed as managers, tasked with running the world on his behalf. All right, so that was the blueprint, right? A world managed by humanity for a good king. But obviously, that's not the world we see today. So, what went wrong? The speaker lays out a really clear explanation for the central problem that defines our world. It really all boiled down to this one choice, symbolized by a tree. Was humanity going to trust God's value system, his definition of right and wrong, or were they going to seize that power for themselves? They chose to create their own value system. And according to the speaker, this wasn't just, a small slip-up. No, this one act of rebellion had two huge, catastrophic consequences. First, humanity became legally guilty, breaking the king's law and earning the penalty of death. And second, something even bigger happened. They lost the authority they'd been given. So that authority had to go somewhere, right? Well, Bogi's point is that by obeying Satan's suggestion, humanity effectively transferred their allegiance, and their authority went right along with it. That single choice is what installed Satan as the new, illegal ruler of the world system. So we have this massive problem, a guilty human race facing death and a world under new, hostile management. What does God do? Well, the speaker explains that God didn't waste a second. He immediately announced the solution. And this, right here, is where the whole idea of mission is born. It's wild. Right there in the garden, just moments after everything went wrong, God lays out this cosmic, prophetic timeline. He basically declares war. He says there's going to be a long conflict. Satan would get a shot in, a bruised heel, but ultimately, a descendant of Eve would deliver the final fatal blow, a crushed head. Bogi says this descendant is Jesus. So you see, mission isn't just about charity work or building wells. In this framework, mission is the code name for this epic, divine rescue plan, a grand operation to redeem humanity and take back a world that was lost. Okay, so that's the plan, set in motion thousands of years ago. But that brings up a pretty important question. Who exactly is supposed to be carrying this mission out today? Well, the speaker gives us this formal definition. It's not just anybody. It's a specific group he calls the church. And they don't do it in their own strength. They're empowered by God's Spirit. And what's their goal? To carry out those same redemptive purposes that were announced way back in the garden, all under the authority of Jesus. And this is where he really challenges how a lot of us think about this. We hear the word missionary, and we picture a specialist, a pastor, or someone who moves to a foreign country. Bogi argues that this is a complete misunderstanding. The logic here is actually super simple. If the mission was given to the church, and the church is all people who believe in Jesus, then, well, you do the math. Every single one of them is a missionary. Every believer is considered part of the team, chosen to participate in this massive global plan right where they are. And this completely flips the script, right? It takes mission from being a specialized job for a few people and turns it into a universal purpose for everyone. And that leaves us with this huge final question to chew on. If this cosmic rescue plan is real, and every believer is actually a part of it, What on earth does that mean for your ordinary day-to-day life?